And there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, hi there. Good afternoon. Oh, that's Darlo. Hello. Where? I don't know where Finn is. Hey, oh, keep running. Run, my child. Hello, hey, Manik, bonjour. Hi, ladies.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Antje. Nice to see you. Guten Abend. Hey.
Guten Abend.
Hey, Chloe. Hi, Marlene. Hey, Darlene.
Hi.
Hi, Diane. There we are. So, ladies, hey, salut Alain, bonjour. Hi, everyone. Nice to have you here. So, I just got Finn from school, and he's not going to go to school, really ever again. We've decided his brain's full. Yeah. But there you go, shalom, Ruth. But hi, Rosemary. Nice to have everyone here. Lovely to have you. So, we thought it'd be fun to come and walk. Hola, Vanessa. Un gusto. We thought it'd be fun to, thanks, Marlene, come and take a little wander because Finn is, now I don't have headphones in, so it's a little windy. Hopefully you can hear us just fine. We were actually going to, let me show you, we were going to start, hi, Ruth. We were going to be up in the Spray Valley. So we drove up there because everyone loves it up there. But then the snow started blowing in. Hi, Sissy. And it was snowing so much that we thought there's no way we could stand outside for like a half hour, 40 minutes. But yes, we desperately need snow. So we're looking down. Obviously, there is all of Mount Rundle. There is Eeyore, but it is still, we are in the town of Canmore here. And it is still about 3 or 4 degrees. So it's still above freezing. Hi, everyone joining. And there, of course, is Hatling Peak, which some of you all know the story of, but that's the grassy range up there. And so we thought we'd talk about a few things while we're here. But Finn's school, now there's 2 of the 3 sisters up there, but it's the first day that's not just piercing blue sky in ages. No more snow and bond. Well, Anta, normally for us, really, spring isn't until May. But we've had this extremely warm, about a week, I guess. Yeah, extremely warm week. Of course, I was skiing yesterday and it was nice, but it was much more like spring skiing. It was with the cherry blossoms, of course. That is absolutely. This is part of the reason we wanted to come down here. So we are down in a very interesting part. Hola, Ophelia. We're down here. Hey, Finn, Ophelia's here. So Ophelia, of course, did tour with us 2 years ago in Mexico when Finn was there. So it's nice. But yes, we are down here with the Wapiti, with the elk. It's so nice to see them. But this is an interesting field. So obviously we live in Banff, but Finn's school is just up the road, about 3 kilometers from here. And we used to live not in this really, really fancy over-the-top neighborhood here, but we did live for years up the hill. Oh, no, Ophelia. We did live up the hill, and then I used to take Finn with those trail bikes. You pull the bike behind. Finn was 4, I guess. And we'd go along all through this path here and up. So we thought it'd be a fun place to have a bit of a chit-chat and to talk about the evolution of this part of the Canadian Rockies. Because, of course, it was, Monique, and it was fun for me, too. No, I had a couple of years, but yes, these are elk. There's actually a whole herd of lovely, she's quite a young lady there. But what is so interesting is this whole side of these mountains here. Remember, it's older rock on top of younger rock. And underneath are huge beds of anthracite coal. Look at that. Abe, you just put a hi, Catherine, with a question mark. And see that, Finn? And for the first time, it's come up. Sorry to be a little nerdy hey-go-y here. Oh, there it is. Question mark. So that's useful. This is the new question thing. So update. We like that. We do like that. We did. So it detects the question. How interesting. So now we can just spam people's tours.
Question mark. Every single thing you say, put a question mark. Yeah.
Do you know, Nat, it's the first time I've seen it. So I turned this on earlier because I had to postpone. I had to postpone my tour this afternoon, and that is because of my friend Skip, who was drumming, had a childcare issue, so that didn't work. Alternated days. So yeah, it was interesting. But then they've got to tell us where you want to go in the world. So I have to say, and I'm tired of being critical because I don't like to be critical, but they had an absolutely nothing picture of Canada as a place to pick. And then their picture for Belgium was actually Thailand. so I did email them a picture from Lake Louise and say, could you maybe put one of these up if you want to make it look a little bit more appealing? So if you would all be quite kind as to go in and say Canada's a place you'd like to go to, and then also please pick destinations in like Africa. Do you realize you had to scroll down so far before you got to anything that wasn't sort of the kind of regular places? So they are jealous when they. So
I just want to say real quick, just about the question marks, everyone. The function about spamming them in the chat, as we were saying, is we're going to go and spam them on people's tours. There's a wonderful guide in Amsterdam named Mark, who I'm sure would adore that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we're going to start going to Mark's tours. Elizabeth, hola, 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 hola. Hi, Nuala. Well, lovely to have you here. So where we are, first of all, let us acknowledge, where are we, Finn, in terms of treaty?
Treaty 7 land here, which is the traditional land of the Métis, Inuit, and First Nations people here. So this is an acknowledgement of land and territory, just of where we are at the moment, to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. Here we are specifically near the land of the Stoney Nakoda people, as well as the meeting ground of the Cree, the Blackfoot, and the Kootenays, who all came through up into this area to trade, as well historically. So we are on Treaty 7 land at the moment.
We are, and up through that pass, there's Mount Fable up in the distance there. Now that I really love in between. So you've got Mount Lady MacDonald up on the left, and of course I have a 360 video from up there. And then over on the right-hand side is Mount Grotto, and they are still mining in the distance. Just show up there is where there's cement production around at the town of Exshaw. But up through the middle here, Mount Fable's a fun one because it's still sort of an unofficial name. It's a beautiful peak back there. But no one had climbed it till 1947, but the first people who set out to climb it came back and said that the bush was too dense, they couldn't find the way. And when the next climbers went out, they're like, there's no bush here, it's the same forest as everywhere else. So they called it a fable route. So that's sort of neat. Sorry, we just heard a bang, and often that is suggestive of avalanches. I don't know though. I don't know, but it is dramatic. So where we are in the world right now, ladies and gentlemen, is down in the distance, in the valley way up there. You're looking down towards Cascade Mountain. And Cascade, of course, is what you see from right on Banff Avenue. So we live in the town of Banff, but we're outside of the national park. We're actually not in a park at all right now. We are in the mid-sized town of Canmore, about 14,000 people. But Canmore is quite unique because around us, you have the National Park of Banff National Park, and then there's 5 different protected areas that constitute Kananaskis country, which is provincial, 4,000 square kilometers. And there, of course, hey, Margaret, and there is a Wapiti right there. And there's elk. It was interesting, say, just the other day, I had people here from Saint-Pierre and Miquelon, the French islands off of Newfoundland, and they didn't know what elk were. They knew caribou, which is, they're related. Really, you have more elk to the south than caribou to the north. Caribou are a little different because, of course, caribou, the females also grow antlers. I can see some more up here. I want to come show you a pond up here. But what we thought might be a little fun to talk about. So, yes, hey, Alice. So we're going to pick Finn's mum up. We're going to take them into the airport. And they're flying at just after 6 out to Vancouver, which is about an hour and 20. And, of course, it's a gorgeous flight over the mountains. And then they're flying how many hours?
18 consecutive ones.
Well, the actual flight, though, I thought it was 15.
Well, yes. So it's 16 hours for the flight. The last time we flew down, we had a headwind, so it was about 18 hours actually. And by the time that you're going around and you're landing in, the time is often a little bit longer than it actually does suggest. So,
but I think it's officially 15 and a half hour from Vancouver to where?
Brisbane.
To Brisbane. Yeah. So Finn will be flying off to Brisbane. These are not tamed at all, and sorry about the wind. It's a little bit noisy. We're walking into a much colder wind. It is, it was 3 degrees, but it's probably a wind chill of about -2 or so. What I'd like to do, we'll talk to you about the elk a bit more. I want to come up and show you a body of water up here, and then walk up to an old building. But if the elk are in the way, we won't be doing that. No, there are something like in and around the town of Banff, there's about 170 elk, and in around Canmore here is about 160, 170 as well. They are herd animal. They're very, very docile this time of year. But in later September, when they're in that loving mood, they get extremely aggressive. No, they've still got their winter coats on. We're still winter. It's just the bears have woken up because we're warmer than normal.
As a matter of fact, that September season when they get aggressive. When I did a walking tour around that time of year last year with the Welsh group, we had an aggressive elk on our walking tour. We were walking around. Some people were getting in to take some photos. You know, we had a good distance with it, and there was a mother elk who we assumed probably had a kid in the bushes. She was not happy about our presence. She was stepping, scraping the ground, false charge sort of thing. It was coming at us, scaring us away.
Yeah, if anyone was doing it, it was a 3D walking tour with a group of Welsh performers. Yeah, and yeah, so they did meet the aggressive one, but it's okay that you're late. Hey, thanks, Michelle. Nice to see you here. And it's so they do get aggressive, and we have signs all around to keep the distance. Right now, you'll see they're just out here chewing. They've been having a really, really fun week right now because it's been nice and warm. But of course, they're outside all the time. They're totally wild animals. Now, that noted, as I look back up, look at the snow coming into the valley here. See how it's moving around. Nice to see some snow finally. It's so dry here. But up in the distance, in fact, if I could scan in, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but if you have really good eyes, way up, you might find a Canadian flag. I can just see it above the tree line. Just sort of fluttering. That's where the Canmore Nordic Center is. That, of course, was the cross country and biathlon during the Olympics. I've done lots of tours up there over time. But while people were cross country skiing 10 days ago or so, a pack of wolves took down a deer right in front of them. So that's so we have a wolf pack in the valley right now. I know they're not around us at the moment. Yeah, literally. So, hey, Henry. But I mean, it's so good. Melissa, in front enough that people saw the wolves. I think they'd sort of come around the corner and the wolves had gotten to them. But yeah, these are elk. These are all female elk right now, good and healthy. They are, say, a herd animal. It would be an intense moment. Isn't it lovely to see wildlife down around here? We see coyotes down around here quite often as well. We have deer all over. In fact, I didn't even mention it the other day when I was coming back from the city and we're ostensibly getting our car back today because our car has had nothing but problems. But I actually had to slam on the brakes it was driving into the city. That's right. I had to slam on the brakes because a whitetail jumped right over a fence, cleared it. Here's some of the elk. But I want to come around to a body of water here, which is really interesting. So Finn grew up here, right around here. Actually, Julie, so if you're in Wisconsin, I mean, coyotes aren't even counted here. There's so many of them. And once upon a time, we had a cat, and we no longer have a cat because of that. And now the fact that we live in the national park, we wouldn't have a domestic animal anymore. I love cats, and so does Finn.
Yes.
And we're trying, and for all you Canadians on board, do your best to support the SPCA right now. There are so many pets that are being abandoned that people had gotten during the pandemic. That's just tragic. But yeah, it's a bit of a choice here.
We've talked a lot about domesticated animals on tour here before. About the parks in the area, the national park, people walking their dogs, and it is a genuine problem for people who do want to bring their pets to the area. There are wild animals and they are out, and of course, as heartbreaking as it was for us when we had a cat, and with a lot of people.
We have to be careful walking. Ice everywhere. Yeah. Oh, you can play with the oxygen underneath there.
But as I was saying, as heartbreaking as it is for people to lose domesticated animals, of course, when you're inside the national park, when you're in the protected area, there is a certain point where that dog, is a bit of an irritant in many cases. Mm-hmm. So as much as we love our dogs, we want to keep them on leash and keep them, and especially the animals around them, protected.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And people who let their dogs off leash think it's great for their dogs. But of course, as soon as they're running into the woods, they're interacting with wildlife. Absolutely. And that's really important. Melissa, it's cats are just such gorgeous, personable creatures. But, our cat, was out on a leash with a bell and was still killing birds. And that's, that's a reality. And we have migratory birds. Now, this is what we want to come and show you. This body of water here, which is a very unique body of water. Some of you would either like the smell or not like the smell. See, yeah, this, by the way, Canmore, you always see people out running and biking and everything. And that's because, of course, this community has the highest per capita percentage of Olympic athletes in the whole wide world. Of any community on earth, there's more. Yes, so this color is what we wanted to come and talk about here. It is sulfur, Monique. Now, of course, Sulphur Mountain in Banff. Well, it reminds me of hot springs, I think. Isn't this just gorgeous? Now, a couple of ducks down in the corner there, and this is clean water. But for years and years and years, long before Finn was born, this was not clean water. And that's because the economy of this community, of course, the indigenous people lived here for 14,000 years just fine. But then the economy of this whole community became coal mining. Now, the trains arrived in 1883. And of course, until the 1950s, the Canadian trains were run by coal. And then they switched to diesel. And when you talk about coal, if you don't believe me, look at this. This is all coal right down in here. Joyce's doesn't even have a lake. It's all part of Quarry Creek. So it's not actually a lake. And this is what I wanted to talk about. So the last mine closed here in 1979. Now, it was anthracite coal. It is anthracite coal, which is the hottest burning one. There you go. So we're not going to go for a swim. I was going to throw Finn in, but he got off easy here. But at the point at which the mines closed, it's not even truly a creek, Joyce. It's really fascinating. Where you have homes over here. Every one of these houses is, $2 million or $3 million. I mean, it's just obscene. So the color, so I'll explain it to you, Donna, because it's fascinating. Up through here, and we'll show some of it to you. But all this whole area, you will find the remnants of mining equipment all together. And it was both pit and underground mining, right? Managed to, I think 1914 was the worst mine disaster here. But as many of you, if anyone comes from a coal mining background, you know just how dangerous I think coal mining particularly is, because it's very unstable rock. So when the mines closed down, there was a genuine effort made to reconstitute this land. And the Canmore area here is one of those few success stories where they really did reconstitute. So there is natural, thanks Melanie, occurring sulfur all through our mountains. And that's because, of course, all of this rock is that very, very porous limestone. And so there's natural sulfur that comes out. But a lot of this sulfur was actually dug into at the point at which the mines were being created through here. Hey, Helen. And so as they were mining all through the area, they triggered, of course, this release of sulfur that comes out through the soft, porous land underneath. Now, the reason why, and so we talk about this so much in Banff all the time, because the natural hot springs, which is why Banff was created where it was created, Banff came about because of the hot springs. But this natural water through here is only partially natural, because up behind us, I once tried to do a tour at Quarry Lake. And we have to talk about Quarry Lake too, because that is now, Quarry Lake is a big, mostly round lake. I've got pictures of Finn at 4, standing there on like a 30-degree day, because we do get that hot every now and then. Maybe 30 is like 86, pretty rare, but with blue lips because the water's frozen. But Quarry was actually one of the mine pits. And so they used, now I don't know the signs, Helen would know about it. They accessed some of the sulfur, and then they replanted around the entire back of this entire area. And it took about 30 years, but all the water in through Canmore is considered clean now. Now, that noted, they've started building houses and complexes all the way through. And in fact, up around here, a little too far for us to walk, is a community I'm deeply embarrassed about. It's called the Cairns on the Bow. I think there's 12 houses there. One of them sold for $11.4 million, and they sit empty. They're all part of that international jet set money, and that could have been good cooperative housing for all of us. Thanks, Sarah. So it's a really neat walk up around here, but thought I'd take you up and talk a little bit more about this mining history. Karen, no, just that neighborhood was promoted as, not the Cairns.
That's a really good name for them.
There, no, not, we have our beloved cairn here, but no, a cairn like the stack of rocks, but this is where you'll find all through here this very Karen, you're
Not you, Karen.
you're one of our. By the way, the interesting thing when you see that sulfury, warmer water coming down, to see how gigantic this stand of aspen trees. Like this is bigger than many of the ones you've seen, even in Banff with me, and that tells you that there's natural warm water flowing through here. So they have a much longer. Thank you, Ellen. Much longer growing season.
It's like one of the micro sort of environments that we see around the Cave and Basin a lot in Banff. Everyone, it's sort of a similar thing to it here. But of course, a lot of that water is going to be running deep underground, so you don't quite get that vegetation you do around the cave.
Do you know there? It isn't. That's a good comment there, Pamela. It's actually that color of the water is two things that's happening in there. It's the flushing out of the old mine areas, but it is actually the sulfur that is causing a growth that's giving that turquoisey color to it. So it is actually a bacteria that forms in there. So it is its own thing that way. You know what, Karen, you're so right how it's been bashed by pop culture. Yeah, it'd be nice. And there's a name for men too. What is the name for? Yeah, I want to see your boss. But yeah, there's no copper. Well, I shouldn't say there's no copper. There is copper. You got to go further west into the Rockies to find in around here. But I'm not sure, Julie. Have a look at this. So all through town, we've found these sort of things. Now I have a metal detector, and of course I go out looking for gold when I'm out there in BC. There's no gold here because it's way too porous. But this is the remnants of what a mining community was. And even though I don't like the fact that you have these gigantic multi-million-dollar houses sitting empty, on the other hand, to show that a community that was this very rough mining town can convert into what is considered to be the most livable small community in Canada, although we say that, it's also now the most expensive community in the country. Do you know they calculate that you need to earn $37 an hour just to get by in Canmore? By the way, all those marks in the snow back here, all of that are from squirrels running up and around. But you check out this very, like Finn's pulling out some of the old equipment here. We can even show you one of the old houses. And then there's also some nests. Now this is where you get fantastic. Hey, Mary Beth, nice to see you. So there's some nesting up there. Finn, what would be nesting up in those holes?
Oh, great question, Dad. So that could be some gophers up there. That could be some smaller birds. Also, as our last flora and fauna tour, we talked about the little brown myotis bat, which is also found out here in Canmore. There's actually some bird boxes up around the road right near here. And so these actually look quite similar to some bat nests as well, Dad, to some caves. Very similar to the ones in the hoodoos. If you look at that rock formation at the top, that kind of gray, yellow, brown sand, really kind of thick, that cap on the top of it, that real distinction in between the rock, the sand, and the dirt. That's the same thing you're going to have at the hoodoo. So this is another environment where they're found.
That's so true. I'll answer that question in a minute about the picas, but you'll also see, so you've got your very soft compressed sandstone here. Oh, Harriet, are you here? Hi, Harriet.
Hi, Harriet.
It makes Finn the best. Then you've got, of course, that hoodoo formation, but really what that is, of course, is ground up mountain. So there's your rock flour, and then above it is a layer of soil, and you see the soil forming. However, integrated and through all of this is that coal, all that vegetable. So Catherine, I think it was asked, have we seen picas? We most certainly have. So you're not going to see a pica here. We're a little too low. Let's look at the view down the valley here. We'll go back and say hi to the elk because it's just so lovely to see them. But the picas, for those who don't know them, where's the sound? Is that Darla? I could be. Darla is hearing impaired, so but Finn is speaking very loudly, Darla, I promise. So it could be that.
Could be that. I'm right here though. If you can't hear me, then I apologize. I am speaking loudly, so I'm sorry if there's a problem there. But
Monique, that box is exactly the train cars that used to go in and out of the mines. So we're going to show you where the mine shafts, one of them were. There were 3 different sets of them down through here. You might hear a train in the distance. Oh, and if you look straight down there, up around the bend, this is where they are mining still, but that is concrete. So Lafarge, Baymag, and Greymont. Yeah, the 3 of them down there. Down the little working blue-collar town of Exshaw, which sometime I'm going to go do a tour there for everyone. I've done some down that valley, but it's pretty neat. So, but you've probably heard of Lafarge, which is a huge international conglomerate of cement. So sorry, it's crusty snow. But yes, so to come back to the pica. Yeah. The pika is a fascinating creature. It's kind of looks like a mouse. Remember, Alberta has no rats, but the pika looks like a mouse. It's one of the 10 kind of ground squirrels that we have throughout the Rockies. See this kind of equipment? It's just so fascinating what you can
all the way around
find around here, all through the place.
Right up here, up the hill where Dad was saying where, I did grow up for a large period of my life, we built some bike jumps, my friends and I, in the forest. And of course, here you're not in the national park, so you're a bit more free to do that. And one of our gaps was over a big old piece of copper mining wire that we used to jump over. And sometimes you'd snag your tire and you'd fall down, but it was fun. So it's all throughout the forests here.
Julia, I'll finish with the pikas and I'll tell you that story. But yeah, so the question for Darla's CC, closed captioning for hearing impaired. So it's just so fantastic to be able to share this way. I mean, it's really fantastic. So the very, thanks, Darla. So the pika has this lovely little round ear. They're only about this big, and they have very clear chirp, chirp, chirp. And they live in this range of about 1,600 meters up to about 1,850 or 1,900 meters. That's where they live. They are one of the most important creatures for understanding climate change because they hibernate and they live in rocky territories. So we see them up on Howling Peak, for example. Well, year after year, decade after decade, they're moving higher. What that's telling us is they're responding to the climate they wait for to be able to create their own nest. And eventually, they will fall off the top of the mountains. They won't be able to nest anymore. So that is, it's another one of those indicator species we call them. Yep. So that's pretty significant. Yeah, we'll go around here, but it's pretty significant. As for the rat story, let me tell you the rat story. So Alberta, our town was founded 1883, Banff. Same here, 1883. Thanks, Alice. And then, of course, do you know Alice? And Joyce, the most recent snowfall was over 10 days ago, but it's just starting to snow now. So thank goodness. But just to finish the story, very interesting. So we get carved out from the Northwest Territories, which was Rupert's land, of course. Hi, Giselle. And they create the province in 1905. Did I, Chloe? Thank you. Thank you very much, Chloe.
You're absolutely correct.
Who knew? You did. Oh, look, they've sealed it off.
They have sealed it.
We'll talk about it. So Alberta becomes a province in 1905. The first three governments of Alberta were the Liberal Party, which is what today Trudeau's party is. Yes, Ken, good different question. Tons of it, actually. Then the next three governments in Alberta were the United Farmers of Alberta. And one of the things they did is they set about eradicating rats. And remember, we've got a natural mountain border here with British Columbia, but the border with Montana and Saskatchewan is very flat, so it's not a natural border.
Squirrels, that's what I heard. A whole bunch of squirrels running down.
Oh, the squirrels are getting hyper on us. We'll see if we see them again. So they did eradicate them. People used to work for the Rat Patrol, literally in this province, which is a pretty amazing thing. It is the only rat-free jurisdiction in the world, at least construction. Oh, it's construction, okay. In the farming world. And they figure in terms of agriculture, they have saved billions of dollars over time. Rat back. Now, the other interesting thing, and a bit tragic story, but in southern Alberta, the rat poison, a group of sheep, or a herd, what do you call it, a flock of sheep, got into the rat poison, obviously unintentionally, and they found them all dead, but they didn't stop bleeding. Well, Alberta rat poison is now warfarin. So if you know anyone who takes pills for blood clotting issues, they are taking Alberta rat poison. So it's one of those really interesting connections. Yep. So it actually became a real lifesaver for people. I have a buddy who takes it like full time now. So this is one of the old pumping station and mine entrances here. And it is interesting, Julie, absolutely fascinating. So this was one of the ways in. And it was fact, some of these old mining areas, thanks, Susie. One of these old mining areas here, in 2013, we had, of course, the 1,000-year flood, which will happen again soon. Exactly, blood thinners, exactly what it is, Margaret. And of course, the other side of Canmore not only flooded out, 47 houses were lost up. Remember we were looking at Mount Fable earlier? It's disappeared. Snow's moving in around there. 47 houses were washed out down through there. We were on this side of the valley, and part of the reason we didn't flood out is there were so many old mine shafts that had actually moved the water away. So it's a fascinating. Thanks, Karen. And it was lovely to do. I want people to put some tours up in German. We've done tours in French and Spanish as well, but of course they don't have any information out there. We still have good reception, so you can see So interesting. This has just recently been put up here. There is a sort of mine tour here. Oh, Ian has. That's right, Marlene. Yeah, Ian did do one. Yeah, well, we've done them en français, en espagnol, but it's just because there's nothing on the website to indicate for someone who's in those languages, you know, I have to explain it. But look at the old pulley system here. 2013, Jane, and it actually flooded downtown Calgary to such an extent. It's a good question, Pamela. It flooded downtown Calgary to such an extent there was water up to the 14th floor of seats in the Saddledome. Ben oui, JV. Il y en a ça, il en fait.
So that cart that you're looking in right there, I don't know if it's still findable, but my uncle, who's a photographer, used to have a photo up of me in there on the old website.
Yeah, I don't know if
that cart. I'm not sure if it's still if it's still up, but yes, I've been in that cart a couple of times.
You can't really go into the mines per se because coal mines are so unstable. Yeah. I came over here one time with my metal detector and I had to turn off the iron function because all it was shear noise. Oh, hey, we can show you a young male elk. Glad you let him out. So we'll. What's that?
Cabin up the side.
Yeah. The cabin sealed off too. But this is interesting history. So Pamela asked a great question, whether any of this construction has affected the houses and everything. And yes, one of the challenges. So you have this big neighborhood here, and then it's about 4 kilometers down the road to the neighborhood where Finn's school happens to be. And Finn will have finished pre-kindergarten to grade 12 in the same school, which is pretty rare. Thanks, Em. Be nice to see you. But there are about 3 sinkholes. And this is another one of those very worthwhile debates because do you allow these big development companies to build in places where almost for sure there's going to be not a sinkhole onto the houses, but around where the roads are and the paths. And then that falls on the town and all of us to fix it, right? Now, of course, because we live in the national park, we live with another whole set of rules because our town is just not allowed to grow. But here in Canmore, they've really hit build out. It is. I mean, if they're reconstituting ground, this is. I've seen this fellow before. Here's a young male, and we all recognize him because he's got kind of goofy antlers. Now they will grow in better, but watch. So we're not going to laugh at him because he's just a teenager. But I'm not talking about Finn here. Yeah, so Julie, Canmore is just outside the national park. See if you can try and see his antlers because they're kind of funky. So yeah, Canmore itself sits alone. It's not national park or provincial, but we're surrounded by Kananaskis country and Banff National Park. So it is protected area everywhere else but this one area here. And Canmore is both a wonderful town. In fact, some of you know I worked for a while as an economist and I worked here in economic development, but it's a bad hair day, isn't it? It absolutely is. But I have to say you've got a lot of very wealthy, kind of very active, but retired people who have time to sit on committees because they want to give back to the community, which sounds nice. But what they do is sit back and tell the rest of us working folk what we need to do. And that got a little frustrating over time. He's lovely. Eating. They'll be growing like mad and starting to grow the antlers. So big hugs to you, Nat. Now, when the big elk really get going through the summer, remember, this is only March. I know it's spring where you live, but it's still winter here. In fact, I have bare hands, but my hands are getting cold. Merci à toi. But as this, they will straighten. They will fall out and he'll grow them again. So Siobhan, it is stunning. And of course, we've just had such spectacular blue sky days, but there is some snow coming on. Are you, Julie? Yep. So we're getting some snow coming back. We need, though, like here in March right now, this whole field should be covered in snow. We need solidly a meter of snow to come down. Otherwise, skiing's going to be done. I'm going to, I'm home this week. My kid is flying for a day and a half to get to Australia, but then I'll go away. And if it doesn't snow more, usually I ski right into May. Oh, thank you both. Thank you, Anna Marie, and thank you, Nuala. James, or Last of Us. Finn, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so The Last of Us is a film. I'm not too well versed in the actual film itself. I believe video game adaptation, zombie.
It was a series,
right? Yeah, it's a zombie sort of theme. Some of my friends are very into it. The area where it was filmed is actually downtown Canmore, literally Main Street. Is the scene it was filmed on. where a lot of it was filmed. Then some of it was filmed in the forest, in the roads around here. But it was filmed in Calgary, Edmonton, and in Canmore. So those are the main filming locations. You can actually see in the episodes. I don't know. I think I saw it on Instagram. There's a page that I follow called Urban Calgary. They had a really good show of it. If you are on Instagram, you can check it out. I'm sure it's on Facebook as well. But it's of comparisons of the scene shots and actual shots of the town. And it is one of one. And one of the really easy things about filming in downtown Canmore is a lot of the store names are not name brands. They're not well known. So to have this,
just all local shops.
Yeah, local shops. So to have this kind of castaway mountain vibe, running away from the virus, works really well when you're filming in a gloomy day in Canmore.
So they've been, there's loads of filming around here over the years. Say just about every time you see an automobile ad where it's a truck or something on the mountains, it's the Alberta Rockies. And I was talking about this the other day, but anytime it's Wyoming, Montana, Alaska, it's the Alberta Rockies. So you might remember the Edge, Anthony Hopkins. That was filmed up behind us on Howling Peak, Mystery, Alaska. But I mean, there's so much.
Recently.
Jumanji, oh yeah. And,
which is funny because this doesn't look very jungly, but
a river runs through it. Was actually up around the bend towards Mount Yamnuska. So often. But as you can see, those of you who've been on tour with us all week, we've of course had piercing blue sky, and now we're going to have about 3 days of maybe some cloud and a bit of snow, but we'd love more snow. And then boom, it'll be sunny again. So very typical of our climate. So, but I thought while we're here, it's sort of fun. It was I know Finn really grew up in this town. Did you? Oh, you remember it, Caleb, Mister. So literally from here, about maybe a mile from here is where they built it. Have I ever guided for tours like NatHab? Is that national? I'm not sure. Sorry, the question. I was interviewed just last week by National Geographic in the UK. Apparently that's coming out in May or June or something, so that's kind of fun. And I am asking them to put in a link for Hago. National Habitat Adventures. No, I don't know them. But the resilience of nature is, it's amazing. This whole, the fact that the ground recovered after mining. Now, Alberta is the second dirtiest province in terms of power production, and that's because a huge amount of Alberta's power still comes from coal, big coal power plants. But southern Alberta is the windiest place on the continent, not just in Canada. There she's having a look around. Yeah, we're getting stared at here. Start to wander around this way. We're going to head back to the car. Hello, darling. You're big, healthy mummy there. Isn't she lovely? And so, but, both solar and wind, technically on paper, the dirtiest power in all of Canada is Nunavut, but that's a little different. Is that right? Hey, up in K Country, Yamini, because they're filming up here all the time. There was a Viking one they were filming out by Drumheller. And I thought that was so funny because I always sort of associate Vikings, of course, with ocean, and we are so far from the ocean.
Actually, look at it. Last year, just before summer, they were filming at the Banff Springs. Remember that, Dad? Where were they filming there?
Oh, I don't remember, but they were. Isn't that a lovely view of her down there? That is Cascade Mountain way in the distance. I think it's probably snowing in Banff, and there is snow now descending down Mount Rundle. You get a sense. I always talk about this chain being 16.5 kilometers long. That's what that is. Thanks, MT. Thanks, Darla. Nice to come and share. So we've just got a few minutes left. I'm wondering, though, more. I thought maybe some people, I know Finn does a lot of tours, but you might have some questions for Finn about, growing up in this mountain environment. Finn's been very fortunate to, of course, have traveled internationally enormously. But he lived here and then made the move to Banff, but he stayed at this school. He just threw a pillow on the ice, but he stayed at this school because Finn goes to the French school, and so he does get a school bus in. But when I was growing up, we had no public transport here, so I would hitchhike. Can't just ask you, what grade are you in, Finn?
I am in grade 11, the 11th grade.
Which, thanks, Julie. Julie's down in Melbourne, which of course would be, that's age 16 here, because I know there's different systems around. I wish Mark were here now. We could do some reflections down here. So, two great questions. Chloe's asking you, Monique, I'll answer that one, because on April 2nd, Finn needs to put a tour up, because that's when I'm going to be with his uncle out on the island. But that is Finn's 2-year anniversary. And I remember when Finn did did his first tour. We thought, we ran it by Hago, and I followed along with him and everything. And I want to tell you about Finn right before he started it. Did I say April 1st? Sorry. Oh, no, I was just fooling on that one. No, it's one of those days. Well, Catherine, I'll come back to that in a minute there a little bit. But Finn was before his first tour, and he was standing up, and he was nervous, but he's excited. He prepared, and then suddenly he did a countdown, 3, 2, 1, which has kind of become his thing. He hadn't planned on it. What do you remember about your first tour, Finn?
First tour, I started it off at the skate park. I had the gimbal propped up on the quarter pipe. It was really wonderful to have plenty of people from the community that I'd gotten to know through Dad. So many people on board with a lot of lovely support. It was great fun. It was a really great time.
And Chloe wanted to know what's your favorite of the mountain winter sports. Oh, there's elk all over here too.
Oh, mountain winter sports.
Or mountain sports, I guess, all around.
Mountain sports all around.
Thanks, Siobhan. Go to Mahago.
Of all mountain activity, I would have to say, great question, Nat. I would have to say probably skiing. Downhill skiing's gonna be one of my favorites. Big fan of mountain biking as well, although I haven't done as much of it throughout my life.
Seems you're doing quite a lot at the moment.
Actually, as a matter of fact. Pretty blue bike. I'm not sure if you've seen it. But I'd have to say probably downhill skiing or snowboarding, my favorite mountain sports. People ask about if I prefer to ski, I prefer to snowboard. If I'm going all mountain, all around, going in and out the black runs and such, then I love to ski. But in the park, I prefer to snowboard because when you're on skis, and this is a bit of a masculine take to it, but if you're on a rail and you have two things that can split apart and enable you to do a splits on the rail, then I prefer to go with the board that doesn't make that happen. But I'd say, skiing and snowboarding probably, and then mountain biking, and then climbing as well. Hiking, big fan of hiking. I would do some more of that this summer.
And I'm still a real climber. Finn doesn't love the heights. So you were asked a few more questions. Yeah. I don't think I'd answer one. I don't think Finn would teach a sport per se. I mean, volunteer. You're still a big skateboarder too, of course. You'll be skateboarding down in Australia.
Exactly.
Those stairs, great question, Julie. That is actually part of that same outflow from the mines that created that pool of that turquoisey water, we say. So up above is where the whole mine system, and they reconstituted the pits up there organically, naturally, and say it took about 3 decades for the land to come back, and now it's considered healthy land. So they're not actually stairs per se. And then some of this now is prevention that came in after the last floods as well, and that's really on the other side where I can't show you through the trees here, but where they built a huge wash. And a wash, when we talk about it in mountain terms, a wash is where melting snow goes. And keep in mind, even though we're drier than normal, thanks Margaret, this all still has to go a long way. You prefer, and thanks, Diane. I'm a real skier too. I mean, I did snowboard when it first started as a sport, but I'm a skier because I really like having the moving parts. I like the ability to propel myself, right? And of course, we do a lot of cross-country skiing as well. So, Finn, favorite music?
Favorite music? That is a very good question. Whenever people are asked their favorite music, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I like all music," and I don't want to say that because I don't like all music. But I listen to a lot of different types of music, a lot of different countries around the world. I'd say I'm quite a big hip hop fan. Is fair to say. I quite like rap, and when we travel, I often get a lot of different music from different countries. Particularly, I like listening to music in different languages. It can help familiarize you with the language as well. And in some cases, it can be sort of funny. Like when we went to Turkey, I knew not a word of Turkish, although I could rap an entire song in Turkish. So it sort of changed it. But I'd say I have quite an eclectic taste in music.
Siobhan, Finn was in Ireland last year with me, thanks, Gail, in August. We ran a tour. Yeah, lots of music in French. I listen.
French music, yeah.
Well, I listen to a huge amount of folk music and a lot of French.
Yes.
So, Siobhan, you tell by my name, Patrick Michael Toomey. Dad was from Cork. He was from Cove specifically, and I will be back in Ireland in about 2.5 weeks. Actually, I'll be starting up in Belfast. I think there's a couple of people. A couple of people on board here who will be on that. I've got a group from Michigan coming with me, and so, I mean, I've been touring in Ireland for a long, long time. Um, I'll be in Dublin at the end of the tour. Absolutely fun. It's yeah, this particular trip starts in Belfast. It's spending most of its time out west, but it's a long trip. It's a 2-week trip. But I'm in Ireland a lot. I'll be back in August as well. So it's fun. Irish citizen, which is thanks to my dad. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are starting to hit time here. So I am looking really tanned, and the rest of me is so white. I look like the snow. But I've been outside skiing so much with the blue sky the last few days. Well, a couple of fun questions. So Michael Bublé is Canadian. Yes, he's from just outside of Vancouver. Canada is a huge music exporting nation. Massive music tradition here. Yep. Thanks, Carol. Dad left Ireland actually, Neil, because his family, remember, Ireland was a very poor country once upon a time. So he was 9 years old when they emigrated to New Zealand on a ship. And that was not a great experience for my dad because he was locked into a boarding school where he was very mistreated. But that's a different story for another day. But thanks, Julie. But I still have family down in New Zealand. And so that's fun. And then Finn's mommy is from Tasmania. And so they're on their way to go visit Finn, lots of other places to travel. Really, we've hit time. Finn, where else in the world is high on your list right now?
High on my list. Well, this summer looks like I might be heading down to Southeast Asia, which is definitely a part of the world I'd like to see.
Well, you've been all through Thailand.
I've been through Thailand, absolutely.
So where in Southeast Asia you planning on going?
The Philippines.
The Philippines. And why would you be going to the Philippines?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. One could think of maybe a girlfriend.
I'm not sure, but I might be heading down there. That's definitely been a place, an area that's been on the list for a while. On top of that, I'd say I feel quite well versed in many continents around the world. Of course, going to the Middle East would be something lovely. Going to Israel is definitely on my list for sure. Probably around that 18-year-old age, coincidentally. But Africa as well. Is probably the continent I've seen the least.
For those who don't know, Finn, we lived in Peru for a while. So Finn went to school in Peru.
Yes.
So that's why por eso habla español. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, listen. It's fun to connect with the Irish. I did give a talk the other day, of course, on Irish roots. So, yeah, well, Ireland, of course, all the time.
Always.
So it's anyway, ladies and gentlemen, peace and love to all of you. Thanks for hanging out. I just thought this would be. Well, and to know and fluent, we're both fluent in 3 languages, but we can get by in a few more.
Yeah.
Finn's good. Thanks, Alice. Big hug. So lots of love to all of you from here in the magnificent Canmore Mountains here in the Front Range of the Canadian Rockies. So we are off and running, and I will see you tomorrow. Oh, by the way, you might wonder, people have asked what I put up a raw history. For those of you who don't know me, I am a historian, and I thought about it the other day. I listened to a podcast skiing yesterday, so I'm going to do a raw history on Monday about the invasion of Iraq 20 years ago. So that's what we're going to talk about. Big, heavy one. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, everyone. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you. Take care.
Gracias. Hasta luego. Bye. Ciao. Auf Wiedersehen. Danke. Ja. Du benanntest Kammer.